We've got a double header for you today from two of the nation's major speedways. First, it's Talladega, Alabama, and a 200-mile race for the ARCA late model sportsman cars on the fastest racetrack in the world. Then out to Ontario, California, where we covered the Indianapolis Championship cars in the 6th running of the California 500, and they featured some of the biggest names in the business. We'll be back as they fire up the engines in Talladega right after this. Dark, heavy, rain-laden clouds drenched the speedway all morning, delaying the start of this race for over 2 hours. When patches of blue sky finally began to show, crews started the drying procedure immediately. Soon after, the signal was given for all drivers to climb aboard, and an eager 30-car field of late-model sportsmen began to fire up engines for this Vulcan 200. It was a great lineup of cars that moved out of pit row here at Alabama Motor Speedway. To some of the boys, it was their first encounter with the world's fastest racetrack. Cuckoo Marlin was the fastest qualifier at a little over 189 miles per hour and starts up front on the pole in his Chevy number 14. Gene Taylor starts alongside in the Dodge number 9. In the second row, it's car 75, Butch Hartman, and number 31, Jim Vandiver, both Dodges. Now the pace car drops off down pit row, and all drivers begin to rev them up into the dogleg. The green flag is out, and Talladega, Alabama, once again echoes with the sound of power. Cuckoo Marlin wastes no time coming off the pole, and through turn 1, he's the first leader of the race. Down the back chute, number 75, Butch Hartman drops his Dodge in the low groove to move up and challenge Marlin's lead. Butch is the USAC late model stock champion, and he's a hard charger. Only one lap, and they're already scraping off the numbers. Hartman and Marlin side by side. Car 3, Ron Hutcherson in the pocket with number 9, Gene Taylor running 4th. Now car 31, Jim Vandiver, has moved up to make it a 5-some. Talladega is a drafted track with plenty of room to pass, and the crowd, as well as the drivers, love it. Entering turn 3, Butch Hartman tries Cuckoo again. This time he gets a good bite on the inside and moves out to take the lead. Onto the front chute, it's Hartman in front, Marlin second, Hutcherson third, and Vandiver moves up to try Taylor for the 4th spot. Here comes Ron Hutcherson in the Plymouth number 3. He started in the 4th spot, but he wants to try it up in front, and he passes Cuckoo to take over 2nd place. Vandiver tucks his car in Hutcherson's draft and gets pulled right into 3rd. On the tri-oval, Hartman tries to stretch his lead over the pack, but Jim Vandiver is flying as he moves up alongside Hutcherson. Now we've got a battle going for 2nd. It's early in the race when Grant Adcox makes an unscheduled pit stop. He's got engine problems and will eventually go behind the wall. About the same time, Cuckoo Marlin pulls his car into the pits, and his crew go under the hood to discover a gas leak. They apply tape, hope it'll hold, then send him back out. On the track, it's a duel of the Dodges, and entering turn 4, Vandiver finds a hole underneath Hartman and slips through to take over the lead. And this is just the start because both of these boys are playing for keeps. Into 1, Hartman is still knocking at the door. Hutcherson is back in 3rd, waiting for a chance, with Gene Taylor pacing himself well in the 4th spot. The first smoker of the race belongs to Harold Fair in car 6. He just blew the engine in his Ford, drops down onto the apron, and heads for the pits. But with a lot of oil on the track, the yellow flag is out, and this will put the action right on pit row. A couple of the first cars in are the 2 leaders, Jim Vandiver and Butch Hartman. They'll take on fuel and new rubber. These crews are not as experienced or as fast as most in the Grand National Division, but believe me, they learn quick. Gene Taylor slides in now with another thirsty gas tank. Gene put in some strong practice laps here the other day. Since the green flag, he's been running well and could be a strong contender as they wind down toward the finish. All cars are serviced and head back on the track. They'll be ready for the restart as soon as the sweepers finish in the turn. The pace car leads a snarling, tightly bunched pack through the 4th turn and onto the tri-oval. Vandiver leads them down. There's the green. Now watch Butch Hartman. He saw the green, and it looked like he came off a launching pad. Through turn 1, Hartman is wound up and screaming, but Jimmy Vandiver will be hard to run away from. Onto the long back straight, it's Hartman, Vandiver. Taylor has now moved up to 3rd, Hutcherson 4th, and Cuckoo Marlin holds down on the 5th spot. Here's a tight foursome with one thought: get Hartman. Notice Gene Taylor now in the red Dodge number 9 as he moves up to run with Vandiver. Into 1, Taylor passes Vandiver to take over 2nd. Now his sights are set on the big Dodge number 75, driven by Butch Hartman. Down the back chute, Taylor lets it all hang out and begins to close on Hartman. The Ford, number 98, driven by Ralph Jones, is pushed behind the wall when it popped a valve. Grant Adcox climbs out of his Chevy, number 41, when his crew discover a leak in the gear seals. That's another one out of the race. But the leaders are still out there and pouring it on. Hartman is trying desperately to stave off the charge of Gene Taylor, but he's closing on him down every foot of the raceway. Now Cuckoo Marlin moves up to join Taylor in the stakeout on Hartman's rear bumper. In turn 2, Marlin gets great dig on the high side and passes Taylor to grab the 2nd spot. But on that 4,000-foot back chute, he really unleashes that Chevy, moves up alongside Hartman, and in turn 3, 14, Cuckoo Marlin regains the lead. With Hartman up high on the bank, Taylor seizes the opportunity, dives into the low groove, and coming out of the 3rd pocket, owns the 2nd place spot. This time around, it stacks up a little bit different. Marlin is the leader, Taylor 2nd, Hartman 3rd, and Jimmy Vandiver once again begins to move toward the front of the pack. Ron Hutcherson pulls his Plymouth number 3 in with a hot engine. Ron is the son of the former Grand National driver, Dick Hutcherson. He's been running well and would like nothing more than to follow in his father's tire tracks. His crew cool the engine down, button up the hood, and Ron heads back in the race. Cuckoo Marlin brings his Chevy in again. Same problem, leak in the fuel line. His crew patch it up, but it's a lengthy stop and puts him down a couple of laps. Car 9, Gene Taylor, takes over the lead, and on lap 67, Hartman and Vandiver both fly into the pits. It's their last scheduled stop, and primarily for fuel. Both cars take on gas only. There's only a few laps to the finish, but they want to make sure. There's a drag out of pit row, and Vandiver wins it. Taylor has built up a beautiful lead now, and we just got the word from his crew. He will not pit again. They're going to gamble on gas. There's only 8 more laps to go, but at these tremendous speeds, fuel goes in a hurry. This could be a squeaker. Meanwhile, Hartman and Vandiver are staging a sensational battle for the second-place spot. These two cars are so evenly matched, they look like they're welded together, lap after lap, side by side. Talladega is famous for racing that puts the fans on their feet. In turn 1, Hartman gets too low, puts a wheel on the apron. The car started to get swirly, and he had to back off for an instant. Butch loses some ground momentarily, but quickly gets back in Vandiver's draft. He closes on him, and down the long back chute, pulls to the inside, passes him, and in turn 3, owns the second spot. Remember, as hard as these two cars are running, they're still fighting over second place. Taylor is the leader and could take the win if his fuel holds out. Uh-oh, Gene Taylor is slowing down. His engine just died of starvation. Gene drops onto the apron, and he'll have to coast all the way around to the pits out of gas. They gambled, and they lost. But you can bet they learned. His crew fuel the car in a hurry, but not before Hartman and Vandiver fly by to take over the front 2 spots. Through turn 1, Jimmy Vandiver puts his Dodge number 31 around the high side of Hartman to take over the lead. But Butch is a champion, and he'll fight it out right to the wire. There's the white flag. 1 more lap to go. 2 Dodge Chargers, 2 top drivers, about 2 miles to the pot of gold. They fought like this for 75 laps. Now they're coming down to the payoff. Down the back chute, Hartman begins to close. He's in Vandiver's draft and in a great position for the slingshot when they come onto the tri-oval. Watch him. Here it is, into the dogleg. Butch Hartman goes high, now cuts back across Vandiver's draft. He's into the slingshot, and the surge carries him up on the inside. It's going to be close. He missed it by a foot. Jim Vandiver takes the win in one of the closest races we've seen in a long time. Butch Hartman executed a near-perfect slingshot, but it looked as though he might have tunked Vandiver on the left rear bumper just before the finish line, which could have slowed him up just a fraction of a second. The 12-inch separation at the finish line meant that Butch Hartman took second and about $1,200 less. Gene Taylor finished third, and this was just a warm-up for Jim Vandiver. Tomorrow, he's entered in the Winston 500. And for a traveling man, that's a very busy weekend.